and you have protocols. You have protocols and recipes and cleanses and these brain shots. Talk to us. What are the brain shots? Because I think it's so cool. You have, all these like 3 different categories, and I'm sure they just came to you, but they're specific, like highly minerals and spices and veggies, and like, so tell us what the brain shots are and what they're doing for people, because I've heard incredible feedback about what they're able to do for people and healing instantaneously.
Well, and that's what's happening. So the brain shot therapies are therapies that came from Spirit of Compassion, the voice I hear, and the combinations are specific. So it's a combinations of a wild food, an herb, a leafy green, a fruit, or a vegetable, or an herb or spice, and it's a combination of these, and it's for instant relief, and it's like a miracle has happened. So many people are using the brain shot therapies, and they're getting instant relief for OCD. They're getting instant relief for their adrenals. There's 3 classifications in the Brain Saver book. It's stabilizers, shifters, and exposure shots. So if someone feels like they were exposed to a virus, they could do the exposure shot. If someone feels like they were exposed to heavy metals or exposed to a pharmaceutical, they can do the pharmaceutical exposure shot or the heavy metal exposure shot. If someone feels like they need something stabilized, like maybe they feel like they're getting burnt out, or they feel like their adrenals need help, you can do some of the stabilizers. But it's giving people instant relief, like miraculous instant relief. And it's incredible because it's the combination, the right amounts for each condition. I would never know what that is. It's because I got the information from above. So it's not man-made. It's not like, oh, let me just see now. Let me see what could help somebody's OCD. I'm going to put together carrots and maybe I'll put a potato in there. Maybe I'll put some lettuce in there. It's not that. It's like these specific combinations. It's mind-blowing information that came through, and it gives people like an instant hit. Powerful though.
Mm.
And when people do the brain shot therapies, I mean, in minutes, they're feeling relief from migraines, from all kinds of suffering, from mental, spiritual, emotional, physical, all of it. And it's really exciting to see this. Like I'm just so blown away.
Yeah. And I obviously, you talk about neurological symptoms are just exploding. Also, we see this explosion, especially in the last 3 years, but from the rise of social media and inundation of information, and most of it negative. We see this depression and anxiety just going through the roof, and then OCD and all these things that come along with it. Um, and what most people think depression and anxiety is purely psychological, but what you talk about is all of the physical trauma that's going on in the brain because of these toxic exposures. Or so can you talk a little bit about like that?
Sure. um, so anxiety is a physical problem for people. It's actually physical because if it lingers, if and okay, it's different if someone has an acute anxiety condition that happens when some trauma occurs. Like if you had trauma, if you've had extreme stress, if you had a great loss, something if something really challenging happened in your life and it created this basically a hyper acute situation where you have anxiety. But once things calm down and die down, like you're moving forward with your life, the stress is down, you're getting past what the challenge was, things are getting better, but you have anxiety that's continuing and continuing and continuing, and you can't get out of that cycle. And it's in panic attacks and it's in other varieties of anxiety symptoms. That's when we have something that was triggered from that emotional experience. Because when we go through a loss or any kind of hardship, our immune system just drops. It hits rock bottom for moments. And that can open the door for any other thing to happen. Another thing, too, is there's people out there that don't have a great loss or a serious challenge in the moment or anything. And they're just living their life. Everything's great. They're happy. And then a panic attack occurs and they get their first panic attack and they're in the hospital. They're in the emergency room. They're being told you didn't have a heart attack. You're getting all the tests, and everything. And there's that group of people too, because something else is happening. It's a physical condition developing And the vagus nerves play a huge role in anxiety, where the vagus nerves get inflamed. So something's going on in your life in that moment where the vagus nerves are starting to get inflamed. And that can trigger off a bout of anxiety or chronic anxiety that happens with people. Toxic heavy metals are a big one. So many people have toxic heavy metals inside their brain, and then the metals start to move. They start to shift. They start to gravitate and go into adjacent tissue. And the more metals we have, and the more byproduct produced from oxidation from these metals going into different parts of the brain can trigger off anxiety too. So eventually you get these cranial nerve inflammatory signs where it's your vagus nerves are responding to the problem you have with the toxic heavy metals, or you're having other issues with it. But either way, anxiety, and I talk about it in great detail in the Brain Saver book, there are real true reasons why people are suffering from anxiety. And that's the anxiety that comes with a perfectly healthy person. It seems like everything's great. They're healthy. Nothing's wrong with them. And all of a sudden now they're panic attacks and their arms go numb, and they're laying on the floor and they're having breathing attacks, and they're having continual ones. There's real reasons for this. And the tightness of the chest is a big one. Tightness of the throat, tightness of the chest. This is when the vagus nerves are being affected by something. Toxic heavy metals, low-grade viral situations like Epstein-Barr, shingles is another one. All these combinations can create this inflammation in the vagus nerves. And then, of course, you can have difficult times in your life and stressful situations. But a lot of people who have that don't carry the anxiety past that. Mm-hmm. They have it when they're up against stress and problems. When the stress and problems reduce, the anxiety reduces, and they want to move forward in their life. They want to live their life. But if anxiety is coming when everything's going good, there's a bigger physical reason deep down inside.
Yeah. And I think that is like, so the fact that you give people answers of what's going on, information that's not known or not easily accessed or tested for in Western medicine, and then it makes people not feel crazy. It's like, oh, I don't feel bad about myself because I'm depressed. No, there's actually like a toxic interruption going on in my brain and in my nervous system that there's, and after I get that information now, and I also have a roadmap, there's something to do about it, a protocol, like, so, I mean, this really is anyone suffering from any sort of anxiety, depression, addiction, brain fog, neurological symptoms, Lyme, ADHD, Alzheimer's, autoimmune, seizures, like it's OCD, all of this stuff. There's answers, and there's a way out of the dark. So again, this it's revolutionary, and it's such a gift.
Thank you for listening to the Heal Podcast. Be sure to tune in for more empowering wisdom and inspiring healing stories. Oh, and make sure you hit the follow button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss that one episode that holds the answer you've been searching for. And if you feel inspired, we would love you to rate and review us so that we have the opportunity to reach more people. And of course, you can follow us on Instagram for some behind-the-scenes fun and more inspiration at @HealDocumentary and @KellyGorris. Thank you so much, and be well.